When my daughter delivered an unforgettable ultimatum, I chose love over loyalty. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, casting a golden hue that felt surreal against the heavy tension in the air. I stood there, hands trembling, heart racing as she stared at me, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and determination. Her usually cheerful voice shattered the silence like glass. "Mom, it's him or me." Emily was only 16, yet in that moment, she held the weight of the world on her thin shoulders. I couldn't breathe. It was as if someone had jumped on my chest and squeezed. Her words hung in the air, filled with a depth of emotion that felt almost unnatural. I had never seen her so resolute. A part of me wanted to reach out to comfort her, but another part felt the crushing reality of her ultimatum slicing through me. I remembered our family gatherings, laughter echoing in the living room, the way she would curl up next to me on the couch, watching cheesy movies well into the night. The warmth of those memories burned in my throat like a wildfire, making me choke on my own grief. But now everything was different. Mark, my husband, had been a constant stay, the loyal partner, the rock. How could I choose between my own child and the man I had built a life with? I glanced at the pictures on the wall, us as a family, smiling, oblivious to the storm brewing. I thought about Emily's late-night phone calls, the whispers of trouble brewing with her friends. How was I supposed to pick sides in this chaotic mess? My heart thudded in my chest, a frenzied drum calling for peace when all I felt was a maelstrom. "Mom, you know what he did. He can't be trusted." The urgency in her voice cut deep. I could see her fear etched on her face, yet my love for Mark wrapped around my heart like a double-edged sword. Every moment of doubt, every worry echoed in my mind. "I deserve better," she whispered, tears welling in those beautiful blue eyes. They reminded me of my own. They looked so vulnerable yet so fierce. I could see how this decision loomed over her like a dark shadow, threatening to swallow her whole. With each heartbeat, the walls felt closer, the air more suffocating. Was I really going to lose my daughter? I felt a sickening twist in my gut, fear flooding my veins. No parent should ever have to choose, and yet here I was, caught in a web of love and loyalty, fear and hope. Then there was a knock at the door. My heart raced. Could it be Mark? Would he come to add to the chaos or offer some sort of comfort? I wanted so desperately to believe this was just a momentary storm, but the tension in the room felt palpable. Emily's words echoed in my ears. What was I going to do? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The knock reverberated through the house, sharp and unsettling. I caught Emily's eye, and in that moment, I saw a mirror of my own panic reflected back at me. There was a flicker of something: fear, hope, hopelessness, all blending into one creation of uncertainty. I could almost hear her thoughts racing alongside mine, each of us grappling with the weight of the decision that hung between us. "Mom, please," she whispered, urging me to respond, to act. Her voice was laced with desperation that tugged at my heart, and I moved towards the door, each step heavy with the impending aftermath of whatever lay beyond. As I opened it, the cool air mingled with a scent of damp earth, a reminder of the late autumn evening. Standing on my doorstep was Alice, our neighbor, her silver hair shining under the fading light. She wore a concerned expression, and for a moment, it felt like a lifeline thrown amidst the chaos. A thread of connection in a world that felt increasingly isolating. "Is everything all right?" she asked gently, her eyes darting between Emily and me. There was kindness there, an unexpected warmth that seemed to wrap around my heart, offering a glimmer of solace. Before I could respond, Emily stepped forward, her voice quivering. "No, it's not." Alice's brow furrowed deeper, as she took a step inside uninvited, the door hanging ajar. The tension in our home had seeped into her bones, and I could sense her instinct to protect, to soothe. "You know I'm always here to help, right?" she offered, her gaze settling solely on my daughter, who remained steadfast yet fragile at the same time. Emily nodded, her resolve beginning to crack. I could see the weight of the ultimatum sitting heavily on her shoulders, threatening to topple over in a moment of vulnerability. Alice moved closer, wrapping an arm around Emily's shoulders, and for a brief second, I could see the comfort she sought in this small gesture of warmth. Maybe, Alice's voice dipped into a whisper, it's not just about choosing him or her. Maybe it's about all of you finding your way together. It was a small beacon of hope amidst the chaos, yet I felt another pang of guilt. Could we really navigate this storm? With each beat of silence, I began to feel the enormity of the decision pressing heavier. My mind darted back to Mark and his promise of steadfastness, his laughter echoing in moments of joy. How could I lay those memories to rest and embrace this confusing, tumultuous reality that threatened to unravel my family? Mom, Emily's voice pulled me from my thoughts, pleading yet fearful. I can't live like this. It's killing me. Before I could interject, the door swung open wider as Mark stepped inside, his presence darker than the gathering clouds. My heart leapt. A part of me was grateful he was there. Yet another part recoiled at the sight of him. Emily, he said, concern etching lines across his face, can we talk? The tension shot through the room as I stood frozen between them, the three of us suspended in a fragile state of expectation and dread. Emily's fingers curled into fists at her sides, her face a whirlwind of emotions, anger, hurt, longing, and I could feel the storm brewing inside her. Ready to burst free. Talk about what? She challenged, finally breaking the silence with an edge that resonated in the pit of my stomach. How you betrayed our trust. Mark's expression shifted, a flicker of shame crossing his features, but just as quickly, it hardened into something that felt defensive. I didn't betray anyone. You don't understand, he shot back, his voice sharp yet strained. Try me, Emily responded, and a wave of new fears gripped me. I saw their conflict beginning to spiral and instinct kicked in. Stop. Both of you, please. I raised my hands as if to physically divide the tension sparking between them. My voice trembled, unsure yet urgent. My heart raced, knowing that regardless of what was said in the next few moments, the choices we made would echo in our lives forever. As if turmoil were destined to unfold, the phone on the kitchen counter buzzed violently, interrupting our charged moment. Turned, my breath hitching in my throat as I saw the caller ID flash across the screen. The family lawyer. Moments turned into an eternity as the sound of Emily's breath sharpened in my ears, the despair washing over me like an icy wave. What more lay ahead? I didn't know, but I felt the world tilting beneath us, and the choices we had yet to make would change everything. I glanced between Emily and Mark, the air thick with unspoken words and gnawing anxiety. The phone's insistent buzzing pulled me into a vortex of dread. I couldn't tear my eyes from the screen. A panic gripped me at the thought of what awaited on the other end of that call. Maybe it's just the quarterly update, Mark suggested, his attempt at a reassuring smile only making the turmoil within me flare. I could hear the tremor in his voice belying the bravado. Behind his facade of confidence was a shivering fear that mirrored my own. But I knew if it were just an update, why would my heart feel like it was imploding? Mom. Emily's voice was small again, a flicker of vulnerability peeking through her defiance. Are you going to answer it? The question hovered in the air, heavy. I looked at the call again, its persistent buzzing now sounding a haunting urgency that seemed to drown out everything else. This could change everything, I thought, my mind racing back to recent events spiraling out of control, this impending disaster pulling us all apart. Yeah. I managed, pulling my eyes away from the phone as if ripping away from a dark well of insecurities. I'll be right back. The moment felt like quicksand, and as I said the words, I feared them taking me further from my footing that I hurried into the next room, hoping the distance would shield Emily from the conversation I was more than reluctant to have. My hand trembled as I accepted the call, saying a silent prayer to quell the storm brewing in my chest. Hello? My voice sounded strange, distant, as if speaking through a fog. Hi, Sarah. It's Felix, the family lawyer, he replied, and I had to swallow past the lump in my throat. He sounded businesslike but also kind, an interplay of professionalism and unspoken empathy. I wanted to give you some updates on the situation regarding the house and custody arrangements. I inhaled sharply, sliding down to the floor against the wall, feeling small, the coolness of the hardwood grounding me. Go ahead, I whispered, bracing myself for the news to come. Felix's voice carried the weight of inevitability, each word sending tremors through my heart. Based on the latest developments, we need to arrange a meeting with both parties involved. The judge has suggested mediation, but based on past financial disclosures, things may not go in your favor. I felt my stomach drop, and for a moment the room swirled, echoing my fear. I didn't want to go through this, face the man who had once been everything to me, and now stood on the other side of a chasm filled with unrepentant wounds. But if I didn't, what would happen to my daughter? Okay, thank you, I said, my voice foreign to my own ears. I ended the call and let my head fall back against the wall, trying to sift through the scattered pieces of my emotions, each one sharp enough to draw blood. Forcing myself back into the living room, I found Emily and Mark still locked in a charged silence, a combat zone of pent-up feelings swirling between them like a thunderstorm. The air was thick with the unspoken as I entered, eyes darting back and forth, watching them edge further apart. Is it bad? Emily asked, her brow knitted, sensing my distress. Just, more meetings to come, I replied, unsure if that was the truth or a balm to soothe the anxiety that radiated from her. Mark took a step closer, defiance still etched on his face. I need to explain myself. You both deserve to know my side, even if it's hard to hear. His tone softened, but I could see the resolve lingering in his eyes. This was going to be a confrontation regardless of my intention. Is this really the time? I interjected, my voice shaking, desperately wanting to navigate us out of this boiling turmoil. Can't we just know? Emily burst forth, her voice sharp, painfully loud in the space. I'm tired of pretending everything is okay when it's not. We can't just shove this under the rug. Not anymore. Emotions thundered through the room, every glance and every word charged with a desperation that made my skin crawl. I looked to Mark, trying to find a flicker of understanding, but he was lost in his depths, his own demons dancing just below the surface. Then, in a moment that made my heart race, Emily turned on him, each step forward a declaration of her need for answers. You say it's not betrayal, but it feels like it. Mom deserves honesty. I deserve honesty. Mark's face paled, and for a flicker of a moment, I saw a reflection of my own fear mirrored in his eyes, a fleeting understanding that perhaps we were all standing on shaky ground and much of it could give way beneath us. Then came the ringing of a secondary phone, one I hadn't noticed, and it shattered the delicate tension that had built. Stunned, I turned at the sound, electricity crackling between us, a rallying cry for the truth hidden in the shadows. As I reached for the phone, my heart sank at the realization this time. It was a concealed number, the kind that whispered threats or revelations. I hesitated, uncertainty gnawing at me until curiosity brewed into resolve. What if it's important? I asked, looking at Mark and Emily, their expressions a mixture of fear and anticipation. As I lifted the phone to my ear, I thought about everything on the line. It felt as though the phone call could either lead us to the dark abyss of uncertainty or just perhaps a tentative sliver of light. With a deep breath, I answered. The breath caught in my throat as a voice I never thought I'd hear again spilled through the speaker, the words a haunting reminder of past choices. Sarah, the voice said with a softness that belied the chaos in my heart, we need to talk. There's something you don't know. In an instant, my world shifted anew, yanking the rug from beneath my feet and plunging me into a darkness I had not anticipated. I stared blankly at the wall as the voice on the other end of the line washed over me, sending chills down my spine. Each syllable and pause was like a dagger, unwanted revelations cutting through the layers of my carefully constructed life. You need to listen closely, the voice urged, drawn out in a slow, deliberate fashion. Everything about your custody case hinges on this. I gripped the phone tighter, grounding myself against the sudden rush of dread. Who is this? I asked, my voice steadying slightly in defiance of the turmoil churning inside me. It's someone who knows the truth about your husband, Snow. Your ex-husband's dealings, the voice said, each word wrapped in an unnerving intimacy, a familiarity that screamed from the depths of my memory. That house you're fighting over? It's not what it seems. That I recoiled, the pulse of panic quickening. Mark, the man I had trusted above all others, was potentially hiding layers of deception beyond my wildest imaginings. My thoughts raced back to the secrets exchanged in quiet whispers, and my heartache intensified, woven with betrayal. Please just tell me what you mean, I barely managed, my voice shaking as I cast a glance back to Emily and Mark, still locked in their silent, painful gridlock. I don't have time for riddles, the voice sighed, laced with exasperation. There's someone who's been watching him. I'll send you the evidence, everything you need to know. But I need you to understand. This isn't just a family dispute anymore. It's bigger. More volatile. Bigger how? I pressed, my instincts kicking in. Apprehension morphing into pervasive dread. A financial hole that could engulf not just your home. The voice warned, but Emily's future. You must tread carefully. The meeting is getting closer, and if you go in blind, the line abruptly disconnected, leaving me clutching the phone, staring into stillness that felt impossibly loud. I fought to steady my breath, slipping the phone into my pocket, praying fervently that the ground wouldn't give way beneath me. Who was that? Mark's voice sliced through the fog in the room. Anxiety etched his features, revealing the cracks in his carefully maintained composure. To be honest, I have no clue, I managed, gathering the fragments of my resolve. But we need to talk about what's happening here and who's really at stake. Is it about custody? Emily chimed in, her voice rising in pitch, the room vibrating with her raw fear. It could be more than just that. I didn't want to bury the truth, but I wasn't ready to drag them into the depths of uncertainty either. This is bigger, and if we're going to move forward, we have to be honest about everything, even the things that hurt. The tension thickened like fog, wrapping around us, isolating Emily's anxious heartbeat from Mark's apprehensive silence. I sensed Mark's anguish ripple through the air, but instead of reaching towards it, he retreated, folding his arms across his chest, eyes averted. I don't need to hear this, he snapped, voice straining against desperation. I deserve a chance to explain myself. I didn't come out of nowhere. You know that. All I wanted was love? I interrupted, anger flaring within me, fueled by the frustration of our unstable footing. To think that what we built together could withstand this storm is naive. We are falling apart, Mark. You need to see that. Emily moved between us, her small frame channeling the remnants of power she had left. Can we please just listen to each other without flames? We're all scared, but lashing out won't help. Is that what it is? Mark's voice wavered with confusion, hurt swirling within. Don't you understand that I've been trying to protect you, both of you? Protect us? I shouted, the word echoing within the walls, laden with disbelief and inexplicable pain. Your actions created this rift. What good is protection if it's built on lies? As silence pursued its slow infiltration, a heavy moment lingered, ripe with challenged loyalty. Emily stood resolute, surveying us both as a fierce spirit trying to quell the tempest. Just then, a sudden knock on the door jolted us out of our charged confrontation, disorienting the intensity suffocating our small space. My heart raced again as reality crashed against our shield of heartbreak. Who could that be? I murmured, an uneasy flutter pulsating in my chest. Mark glanced at me, uncertainty painted across his features. I don't know, but maybe we should. Before he could finish his thought, the door opened, revealing an unfamiliar face, a stranger yet somehow familiar, cloaked in shadows of memory and echoed past. Sarah, the guest said quietly, eyes scanning the scene between us. We need to talk. Just as the words hung in the air, electrifying miles of unresolved tension, I caught a glimpse of Emily's expression, a blend of confusion and fear mirrored through the fleeting silence. The finality of that unfamiliar voice chased away every ounce of hope I had desperately clung to, and once again, I braced myself for the unknown, the truth standing just outside my grasp, threatening to shatter what little was left of my crumbling world. A silence filled the room, heavy and oppressive, as Sarah stepped inside. Her entrance felt like a storm, one that could uproot everything I thought I knew. The moment she crossed the threshold, I felt an unsettling awareness ripple through me, as if she were a mirror reflecting parts of my life I had long buried. Sarah, I whispered. The name hung like a specter between us, a jab of recognition laced with a dread that I couldn't shake off. The tension in the air thickened, our collective breaths merging into a singular, shared uncertainty. Why are you here? Mark asked, his tone strained and guarded. I caught a flash of something in his eyes, fear, perhaps, or acknowledgement of old mistakes. Emily shifted uneasily beside me, sensing the weight of the moment. I'm here because you need to know the full story, Sarah said, her voice measured but urgent. And sadly, it's not the happy ending you wish for. She paused, inhaling deeply as if bracing herself for the fallout. Things are worse than you think. Worse how? I pushed, my heart racing. The information I had received earlier replayed in my mind, meshing with Sarah's presence into a convoluted knot of dread. What do you know about Mark? I know about the debts he tried to hide, she stated, her gaze unwavering, each word punctuated by an intensity that made me shiver. And the compromises he made to keep them out of sight. This isn't just financial. This involves people who can take everything from him, from you, from Emily. Fear gripped my heart, squeezing tightly. You're talking about my daughter's future, I said, my voice trembling but firm. The mother in me awakening to protect and shield. How can you stand there and drop this bomb without proof? This could rip us apart. It's not just about you anymore. Sarah replied softly, her compassion cutting through my defensive walls. It's about the choices you both made and the consequences they carry. I contacted you because I have something I think you should see. She reached into her bag and pulled out a slender envelope, almost reverent in the act. Mark took a hesitant step forward, curiosity outweighing his reluctance. What are you saying? You think we'd believe you? After the mess our lives are already in? I'm not asking you to believe me, she responded, her sadness palpable. I just want you to understand that you're not alone in this, even if it feels that way. The stakes are high, and I've watched him fight these shadows alone. I caught a glimpse of Emily's face, frightened yet intrigued. Was she wondering if this stranger, who seemed to possess the raw truth, could shift the scales of our reality? Are you going to open it? Emily's voice piped up, soft but insistent. She shifted closer to me, grounding me in the gravity of her innocence. That I glanced at the envelope. What's in there, Sarah? Evidence, she stated. Proof of the dealings that put you all in jeopardy. It might even change how you view Mark's intentions. The tension in the air shifted as I took the envelope from her, hesitating as fingers brushed against the crisp paper. I felt the palpable weight of secrets waiting to be unveiled, truth simmering just below the surface. And what if this doesn't change things? I murmured, fear gnawing at me. What if I don't want to see? Then perhaps the truth will give you the strength to let go of what's been holding you hostage, she replied, gentle yet piercing. Or at least clarify your next step. Do you even know what that would mean? Mark interjected, an edge creeping into his voice. It's easy to say that when you've distanced yourself from the middle of the fire. My throat constricted as I considered the consequences of every unraveling layer in my life. Torn between the comfort of ignorance and the demand for accountability, I felt every heartstring vibrating in uncertainty. Emily's hand found mine, bringing warmth and an unexpected spark of courage amidst a collapsing house of cards. Trusting her instincts, I slowly peeled back the seal, the envelope yielding like it too held a long-lost secret. Just as I pulled out the contents, my hands trembled and the room seemed to swirl around us. Amongst the papers was an image that turned my blood cold, a picture of Mark standing with a man I'd never seen before. Their smiles were superficially friendly, but everything in me shouted that there was something sinister hidden beneath. Who is this? I asked, dread and betrayal constricting my chest. That's not important, Mark protested, his voice edged with panic. You don't understand, but it was too late. The instant recognition on Sarah's face, compounded with my daughter's wide eyes, signified a depth of understanding that ignited my suspicion, threatening to unravel everything. Before I could confront Mark about who that man was, I felt Emily squeeze my hand tighter, a silent plea that somehow told me to choose my next words carefully. I think it's time for truths, I whispered, feeling the precarious thread of our bond shaking under the weight of revelation. And then came the real bombshell. While grappling with the implications of what I had just seen, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket. I fished it out, heart racing, staring at the screen as an unknown number blinked back at me. The same one that had delivered life-altering news earlier. Taking a deep breath, I answered it, ready to face whatever was about to hit me next. But it wasn't what I expected. Sarah, the voice on the line began as I froze, breath caught in disbelief. You need to get away from them. They're not who you think. Every ounce of resolve crumbled at the weight of that revelation, crashing down like shards against my fragile spirit. The inevitable chaos that followed would force me to choose love over loyalty. But at this moment, all I could feel was dread, trapped in a web of unyielding uncertainty. In the immediate aftermath of that chilling revelation, a surreal silence enveloped the room, stretching like a taut wire about to snap. My heart raced as I processed the voice on the phone. Each second that ticked by felt like an eternity, keeping me frozen in place, teetering on the precipice of an unknown abyss. Who is this? I finally managed to say, my voice trembling. What are you talking about? Listen to me, Sarah. I don't have time to explain, the voice rushed out, its urgency pulsing through the air. But I've seen what's happening. You can't trust Mark or Emily. They're part of something bigger than you realize. Get out now before it's too late. Panic surged through me, drowning out reason. I looked at Mark, whose face was a storm of confusion and defensiveness, the remnants of earlier trust wavering like a candle in the wind. What's going on? He implored, but I couldn't drag my gaze from the phone. Who are you? I insisted. Why should I listen to you? Because I know what's coming, the voice replied, a hint of desperation lacing its tone. Reports of threats circulating. Debts escalating, Mark's tangled in a dangerous network. They'll come for you all if you don't take this seriously. I glanced at Emily, who had turned pale, her innocence a brittle shield against the storm lurking just outside our fragile walls. My mind whirled like a storm-tossed sea, grappling with the impending reality of losing everything that mattered. I need to know you're safe, the voice urged, but I could barely comprehend its words against the cacophony of chaos brewing in front of me. Please. Trust me. Just leave. Now that I in that moment, clarity clawed its way to the forefront of my thoughts. This wasn't just about Mark and Maria, it concerned Emily, to the stake of her future wrapped tightly in the fragile surface of our family's history. I could already feel the cracks beginning to show, and the thought of seeing my daughter suffer under the weight of decisions made beyond her years tightened like a vice around my chest. I've got to go, I said, my heart racing as I cut through the oppressive silence that lay like a fog over us. I hung up, the gravity of that conversation crashing over me like waves. Too need to think before anyone could react. I turned to Emily, kneeling to meet her frightened gaze. Sweetheart, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She opened her mouth to respond, but Mark interrupted, his voice laced with rising desperation. Sarah, don't do anything rash. We need to talk about this. I could see the fear in his eyes mingling with his stubbornness, a tempest of past choices convulsing in his expression, and for a split second, I wondered if we could salvage the remnants of our life before it shattered completely. But with every second that passed, doubt burrowed deeper, twisting around hope until I felt suffocated under its weight. I squeezed Emily's hand, feeling the warmth of her small fingers against Minea lifeline amidst the turmoil. We're going to take a walk. Just for a moment, okay? I need some air. Before I could question the impulse, I stood, leading her toward the door with every intention of creating a moment of solace. Bursting into the cool evening air, the quiet outside contrasted sharply with the storm brewing within. The stars sparkled above, utterly indifferent to the chaos below, their flickering light a painful reminder of lost dreams. As we walked, Emily finally broke the silence, her small voice quivering. Mom, is something bad going to happen? Her question hit me like a punch to the gut, resonating deep within the chasm of my heart. I don't know, baby, I admitted, feeling the tears threaten to spill. But we need to be brave right now together. Okay? The weight on my chest shifted slightly, a momentary reprieve amidst the uncertainty. A flicker of cautious hope ignited in my core. It was no longer about preserving the facade of our family but about facing raw truths together. But just as I started to release a breath of tentative relief, a figure emerged in the shadows up ahead. I braced myself instinctively, the earlier urgency resurfacing. The glow of a street lamp illuminated a familiar face, one I had never expected to see in this context. Sarah. The figure called, urgency cloaked in recognition as he hurried towards us. It was Tom, Mark's old friend, a casual acquaintance I had spoken to only in passing. His eyes widened with concern that sent chills down my spine. You don't know what you're walking into, Tom? I stammered, fear coiling around the edges of my resolve. What are you doing here? We need to talk and you need to trust me. Mark's not who you think he is, he warned, glancing over his shoulder as if the truth were already chasing him, ready to strike. You're in real danger. I in that instant, every unsettling feeling I had ever harbored surged back, colliding with the shattered pieces of my trust in Mark. I felt Emily tug at my hand, her wide eyes reflecting the fragility of innocence caught in a storm. Mom, what's going on? She asked, her voice shaking as darkness loomed closer. I took a deep breath, the weight of impending decisions pressing down on me like chains, threatening to ensnare our futures. I had allowed myself to believe that love could shield us from the truth, But now love demanded a different kind of courage, one that didn't just involve loyalty but the fierce instinct to protect. And just before I could respond, my phone buzzed again in my pocket, a sharp intrusion amidst the growing terror. As I glimpsed the screen, my heart plummeted at the name flashing across it. Mark, desperation rimming his words. Relieving the last threads of certainty, I clung to Sarah. You need to come back. We need to talk. It's important. But in that moment, with my daughter beside me and a stranger's warning echoing louder than ever, I realized there would be no going back. The air around us felt thick with uncertainty as I stood frozen, my mind teetering on the edge of chaos. Tom's grim expression reflected a reality I was struggling to accept. What do you mean Mark isn't who I think he is? I finally asked, my voice barely a whisper. He's in over his head, Sarah. Tom ran a hand through his hair, glancing nervously at the street behind him. You don't know the half of it. There are dangerous people involved. He's been lying to you. You need to get Emily and leave now. My heart sank, twisting with every beat under the weight of his words. I turned to Emily, who stood beside me, her small face pale, looking between Tom and me with wide, searching eyes. Her trust in me was an anchor, but now it felt like a dangerous tether leading to uncharted waters. Mom? She whispered, her delicate voice trembling with fear and uncertainty. Can we go home? A sharp pang shot through me. Home, a sanctuary that felt increasingly distant, now potentially grounded in deception. I glanced back at Tom, desperate for clarity in this maelstrom of emotions. What is it you're not telling me? Mark has been caught up in something he can't handle. I don't know the details, but I've seen the repercussions. People he owes money to, they don't just let things slide. Tom's eyes turned intense, the urgency in his voice compelling me to listen. They won't just come for him, they'll reach for everyone associated with him. You and Emily. Before he could finish, another vibration from my phone pierced the heavy silence, the screen lighting up again with Mark's name. My heart raced painfully in my chest, torn between what I had always believed and the clarity pouring over me like a chilling wave. Sarah. Mark's voice came through when I reluctantly answered, filled with an unusual tremor. Where are you? To need to explain. Explain what? I challenged, my voice hardening. What do you mean by important? Is it important enough to risk our lives? Please listen. Just come home. I swear I didn't mean for any of this to happen. We can talk about it, just come back and it'll make everything clear. I cut him off and turned back to Tom, my heart racing in sync with the noise in my mind. What do I do? Trust your instincts, Sarah. That's all I'm asking. Please take Emily and go. You have to leave tonight. There was such raw urgency in Tom's voice that I could feel the fear bleeding through his every word. But how could I simply turn my back on everything I had built, however flawed? The past echoed in the silence surrounding meth love, the shared memories with Mark that I was now questioning in a matter of minutes. Mom, Emily's voice broke through my spiraling thoughts. I'm scared. That I fell to my knees, connecting with her wide, trusting gaze. I'm scared too, sweetheart. But whatever happens, we can face it together. You know that, right? Tears stung my eyes, the depth of my helplessness pulling me into the abyss of uncertainty, and I was overwhelmed by the weight of the decision that lay before me. I had promised to protect her, but did that mean leaving everything we had behind? Sarah, Tom pressed gently. If you stay, you're playing a dangerous game. We don't know how much time you have. You need to decide. The truth tugged at my conscience like a relentless tide. I felt the familiar weight shift again, the slightest glimmer of hope dancing amidst the chaos, a realization that I was no longer just a passive participant in my life story. I could choose to act. I could choose love over loyalty. Taking a deep breath, I rose, feeling a sense of determination engulf me. Okay, I said softly, looking at Emily. We're going to stay safe, I promise. But just as I turned to leave, a fierce rustling echoed through the shadows, and before I could react, 3 figures emerged from the darkness, their faces obscured but their intentions clear. The adrenaline surged in my veins as I instinctively stepped in front of Emily, shielding her from the impending threat. Tom, run! I shouted, and in that moment, the clarity of my choice crystallized into a nagging reality. Had made a choice. I had chosen to protect Emily above all else, even if it meant confronting the growing danger head-on. But just as the figures approached, my phone buzzed again, and glancing down, I saw Mark's message flash across the screen, a final, urgent plea that rang out like an ominous bell in the silence that followed. Don't trust Tom. He's playing you. And with that revelation, the walls of my hopes and fears cracked, leaving me teetering on the cusp of an unimaginable decision as the shadows closed in around us. The streetlights flickered as panic surged through the night, illuminating the menacing figures that now loomed closer. My heart raced, pounding in my ears like a relentless drum, drowning out everything except the need to protect Emily. "Get behind me," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I couldn't let myself falter now, not when it mattered most. Tom's expression was etched with worry as he prepared to face the threat. "Sarah," he called, his tone urgent, "this isn't about you anymore. You and Emily need to get to safety." But as I took an instinctive step forward to confront the encroaching darkness, I felt the ground shift beneath me. I was caught between the option of escape with Tom and the loyalty I felt toward Mark, who had been my partner through thick and thin, even if the truth was dissolving everything I believed in. Suddenly, one of the figures lunged, an arm outstretched. My breath caught in my throat as I instinctively shoved Emily further behind me. Just then, a bright beam of light flooded the alley, momentarily blinding the advancing figures. I squinted to see who had arrived, my heart clinging to a glimmer of hope. "Back off." A commanding voice cut through the chaos. It was Clara, my neighbor and a detective who had been searching for her missing brother. She stood resolutely in the doorway of her house, a flashlight in one hand and a determined look in her eyes. I said, "Back off." The figures hesitated, exchanging glances that spoke volumes about their intentions. In that brief moment, a rush of relief washed over me, but it was swiftly tainted by doubt. Had Tom been telling the truth all along? Was Clara here to help? Or was she merely setting us up for another fall? "Clara!" Tom shouted, unwavering in his stance next to me. "Get them out of here. It's not safe." His voice sounded a note of desperation as he glanced at me and Emily, whose fearful eyes mirrored my concerns. "We need to leave. Now," Clara insisted, her voice sharp and unyielding, still aiming her light at the men. But the danger wasn't entirely subdued. The darkness buzzed with tension. The figures moved closer, shadows stretching like claws reaching for us, as the air thickened with uncertainty. I felt Emily's small hand clutching my arm, seeking comfort as the world around her unhinged. I needed to offer her that comfort, yet panic surged again and made the words stick in my throat. Somehow, I had to protect her while deciphering the truth that Mark had left lingering between us. But amidst the chaos, Clara's unwavering gaze found mine, and I glimpsed something unspoken flickering there, a silent plea for me to trust her. There was a warmth, a hint of familiarity in her stance that ignited a momentary spark of courage. "Trust me," she urged, inching closer, her eyes darting between me and the advancing figures. "I can help you both." Before I could respond, the figures seized their opportunity, lunging. I instinctively pulled Emily tight against me as I heard Clara shout, "Run!" With adrenaline coursing through my veins, I turned, gripping Emily's hand firmly. We darted past Tom and Clara, who stood firm against the encroaching threat. The moment felt like slow motion, an eternal second stretching into the night as we ran toward the flickering streetlight, the surrounding darkness closing in like a curtain set to trap us. "Mom, where are we going?" Emily gasped, her breath quickening. "To safety, I promised," though uncertainty clawed at my heart. Each step felt weighted, every ounce of my resolve strained by the choices I had yet to make. Where was safety in this tumultuous whirlwind? Something caught my eye, a flash of movement to the side, and I instinctively turned, the harsh flare of anxiety striking my very core. With that momentary distraction, I stumbled, losing my grip on Emily's hand. "Mom!" she cried, fear lacing her voice, and "Oh!" I shouted as I reached out, but instinctively it was Clara's firm grip that steadied me, pulling me forward as we sprinted down the street. In the distance, I could still see the figures lingering, watching, their silhouettes growing fainter as we distanced ourselves from their ominous presence. But something deeper gnawed at me, a new fear, more potent than before. "Clara, what do you know about Mark?" I exclaimed, my voice tinged with urgency. "Is he involved in this?" Clara hesitated, and in that stillness, the answer hung in the air, heavier than any blow. "Sarah, I have information that could change everything, but we need to keep moving." The depth of her words washed over me like a cold tide, pushing me to the edge of a churning sea of questions. As we ran away from the danger, I felt my heart sinking into a dark pit of confusion. Was Mark the enemy? Emily tugged at my side, trying to process the upheaval. Mom, I don't understand. Just when I thought clarity might slip from my grasp entirely, my phone buzzed again, a relentless reminder of a connection that felt frail yet persistent. I fumbled it from my pocket, panic knitting my brow, as I read Mark's latest text flash across the screen. I'm sorry, Sarah. Find the old bookstore. It's the only way for you to truly understand. Before I could ponder the implications of those words, the world around me blurred into a frantic rush, my choice of love over loyalty taking shape amidst the chaos. I clutched Emily's hand, determined to face whatever truths awaited us at that bookstore, knowing that I was standing on the precipice of something greater. But as we turned another corner, the echoes of footsteps followed, not behind us, but just ahead. My heart stopped as I sighted a familiar figure, waiting in the moonlight, his face a mirror of both love and betrayal. Mark. In that fleeting moment, everything shifted again, and I was left on the edge of a revelation that would undoubtedly fracture the fragile state of my world. The breathless rush of the city air mingled with a palpable tension as I saw Mark standing just ahead, illuminated almost ethereally by the soft glow of a nearby street lamp. My pulse drummed loudly in my ears, drowning out the distant sounds of sirens and the faint whispers of the unsettling shadows that lurked behind us. Sarah. Emily. His voice was a mixture of urgency and desperation, and it cut through the confusion swirling around me like a knife. I tightened my grip on Emily's hand, instinctively protecting her from what felt like an unavoidable reckoning. Mom, we can't stop. We have to keep running, Emily cried out, her small face twisted with anxiety, and I could see the fear flashing in her young eyes. The innocence there broke my heart. I couldn't let her see Mark like this, a question-made flesh, standing there with a mix of safety and danger that felt as tangling as barbed wire. Yet there was that ache in my chest that spoke of history, shared memories etched into my very soul. I had to know. Stay here, Em, I whispered, my voice trembling as I stepped toward him, leaving my daughter just behind me. What are you doing here? Mark took a moment, his gaze darting from my face to Clara, who had come to a halt a few paces behind me, her presence a silent promise of loyalty. I was torn over. I was trying to protect you both. They know about you and I couldn't let them. I couldn't let anything happen. Protect us? My voice trembled, filled with pain and disbelief. This is how you protect us? The doubt consumed me, swirling like a whirlwind inside. Tom said you might be compromised. I don't even know if I can trust you. Please listen to me. He took a step closer but stopped, as if the very act of reaching out risked shattering the fragile trust that hung between us. I'm not the enemy here. I never was. I'm trying to piece together how this happened. Just then, Clara interrupted, her voice low but resolute. Mark, we don't have time for this. The figures from the alley could be anywhere. We need to keep moving. But Mark wasn't listening. A storm brewed in his eyes, intensified by the shadows forming around us. I know you're scared, but there's more. I can explain everything. If a sudden sound cut through the night. A reverberating crash at the end of the street. The shadows that once felt far away were now rushing toward us. Panic surged anew as the threat became overwhelming. I looked back at Emily, whose face reflected the same tumult inside me, a yearning for both safety and understanding. Mom, please, we have to go, she pleaded, pulling at my hand. I felt torn between two worlds, the warmth of love and the weight of betrayal. Every heartbeat echoed the stark contrast of what Mark had represented to me. Despite the swirling doubts, there was a part of me that burned to know the truth about his connection to all this. Sarah. Emily. Move. Clara's voice cut sharply through the chaos, a reminder we were still very much in danger. The figures, emboldened by our apparent hesitation, were just behind us, a collective hunger moving in their approach. No. I need to know. I shouted back at Mark. If you really care, tell me the truth. I will. He promised, urgency written across his features. But not here, not now. Please, we can find somewhere safe and I swear to explain everything. Just come with me. His eyes locked onto mine, filled with an intensity that felt both familiar and foreign. The shadows stretched toward us, dragging my thoughts into the abyss of uncertainty. I had to choose. Loyalty to the man I loved or the safety of my child. As I struggled with my decision, Clara's voice broke through once more, fierce and unwavering. We can't stay here. If you choose him, I can't protect you or Emily. And if it's a trap, I felt Emily tugging harder at my arm. Her small body rooted in fear and love. Mom! Please! And then in that moment of panic, everything converged into clarity. Okay, let's go, I shouted, turning back to Clara, who nodded her understanding. But as I turned to pull Emily around, Mark grabbed my wrist firmly, his grip conceding both desperation and need. Sarah, just trust me. I'll get you both to safety. But we need to go the other way. My heart stuttered as I hesitated, instinctively glancing over my shoulder at the approaching figures that loomed like a storm ready to unleash its fury. I had no choice but to choose the unknown over the unforgiving path of danger pressing close at our heels. Fine. Lead the way, as we raced together down the darkened street. The wind whistled ominously around us, weaving through the silence and reminding me of the storm brimming just out of sight. Each hurried step was a heartbeat of potential disaster, a reminder that despite this glimmer of hope, danger danced ever closer. When we reached a narrow alley, Mark paused to look behind, his breath quickening. They're close. We need to split up. I'm sorry, but it's our only chance. What? No. I'm not leaving Emily, I exclaimed, panic surging, but there, amidst the fear, he looked at me with an intensity that made my heart flutter, even under the weight of everything. They'll be confused. If we separate, we can give you time to get away. Mom! Emily shrieked. Please don't leave me. Tears pooled in her eyes, creating a storm of emotion in my chest that crumbled the barriers I had built against this chaos. Before I could respond, Mark's voice was soft yet firm. If you trust me, it's our only chance. Clarity awaits us if you get to safety. You and Emily are my only priority. Sarah, as I stood in that space, immobilized by love and the looming dread, everything around us suddenly felt larger than life. Each breath was a plea, each second a countdown. I don't know if I can trust you, I whispered, fear stabbing me in the heart. Would I make the right choice? And then, shockingly, a rustle in the shadows erupted into movement, a figure emerging from the darkness behind Mark. The moment was surreal as my mind grasped what I couldn't bear to face. Mark! I cried, my heart plummeting. But before I could reach him, before I could scream the warning, the figure lunged forward, and the world erupted in chaos once more. Mark's eyes widened and Emily's screams punctured the night, chaining my heart in a vice of dread. The weight of betrayal and the burden of love collided as the sun set on our escape, leaving me to wonder. Had I chosen love over loyalty only to lose everything in the end? The chaos enveloped us like a thick fog as I watched Mark's silhouette falter under the weight of a sudden assault. Time seemed to stretch exponentially, each heartbeat thrumming like a desperate drum. No! I screamed, instinctively lunging toward him, my body propelled by fear and love in equal measure. In a flash, I found myself caught in a whirlwind of adrenaline. The figure that had lunged at Mark now tumbled to the ground, but the darkness swirling around us was relentless. My heart pounded in my chest as I caught Emily's terrified gaze, her wide eyes mirroring my own fear. I could feel her trembling beside me, an instinct kicked in, my resolve hardening. Stay behind me! I shouted, feeling desperation take root as I pushed forward, ready to shield her from whatever darkness came next. Mark and the figure grappled, and I could see the panic flash in Mark's eyes as he tried to fend off the threat. Fear wrapped its claws around my heart, but amidst the turmoil, a flicker of determination sparked. I couldn't let fear paralyze me, not now, not when every second counted. I hurried forward, lifting the heavy weight of adrenaline and stepping into the fray, ready to confront the enemy. But just as I neared them, the struggle calmed, and a voice pierced through the chaos like a beacon. Stop! Both of you! It was Clara, her authority slicing through the tension. She stepped forward, her arm outstretched, framing the scene between us. This is not what you think, she commanded, her eyes darting between Mark and the shadowy figure on the ground, who finally revealed himself a haggard man, barely older than Mark but with a weariness that told tales far darker than I could imagine. Sarah, this is Tully, Mark explained, barely breathless. He used to work for me. The words hung heavily, carrying an implication that churned my insides. So it is true, I said, disbelief flooding through me. You were involved in something dangerous all this time? My heart ached as I turned to Mark, desperate for answers. But before he could respond, Tully pushed up from the ground, breathing heavily, and shot a glance between us, desperation lining his features. You don't understand, He gasped. They're coming for you. What do you mean? I stepped back instinctively, confusion swirling as I processed the urgency in his voice. Who's coming? Tullis' eyes met mine, the pulse of dread vibrating in the air around us. I was your husband's partner, but he stepped too far into the darkness. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help you escape this before it's too late. The world around me took on a surreal quality, my heart echoing with confusion as shards of memories flashed through my mind, the laughter, love, and fragile moments that had now begun to unravel like a thread pulled taut. And why should I believe you? I spat, my words barely a whisper amid the maelstrom of emotion swelling within me. Because Tully continued, a frantic glimmer dancing in his eyes, the debts have grown worse than he admitted. The network Mark was a part of it's dangerous and ruthless. If they find out you're his family, you're targets too. I've watched things spiral and there's only one way to keep you safe. Enough. Clara's voice boomed, cutting through Tullis' panicked explanation. We don't have time for this. Sarah, listen to me. Your safety is paramount. We've got to move. I turned to Mark, the man I had shared so much with. The man who had promised me a life built on trust. Yet here we stood, caught in the web of betrayal and secrets. Mark, I hesitated, my voice shaking with the weight of unshed tears. You have to tell me everything. Now that he swallowed hard, anguish brimming in his gaze. I thought I could keep you safe. I thought money and connections could what? I pressed, frustration bubbling. Keep your family out of the reach of danger while you played a game of illusion? I never wanted this to happen. His voice broke, the vulnerability reflected in his eyes hitting me harder than I anticipated. I was trying to protect you from the truth. I thought what? I cut him off, my anger flaring, but mingling with concern. That we could sit and ignore the rising tide? Mark, everything is falling apart. You need to face what's coming. But as the urgency of our situation began to surge forward again, with Clara's insistence to move pushing us to act, something deep in my gut twisted painfully. The truth was there, waiting for me on the other side of this dark night. Mom! Emily tugged at my sleeve, her small voice a tremor of fright as she silently pleaded for reassurance. I knelt beside her, urgency sparking within me as I pressed my hands on her shoulders, forcing myself to soothe the tremors of fear I felt permeate both our hearts. Listen to me, sweetheart, I murmured, the reality of our situation crashing over me like waves. We will be all right, I promise. We just have to be brave for a little longer. I turned back to Mark, desperate now. If there's a way to get us out of this, you need to be completely honest. This is no longer about protecting your pride. It's about keeping our family together. Tell me what we need to do. Tully stepped closer, urgency radiating off him in waves. We need to go now while we still can. The network is coming, and if they find you, that's enough. Clara intervened, her voice a steady anchor amid the chaos. Sarah, follow my lead. If you trust Mark, we need to find a way out without drawing attention. I looked to Mark, silently pleading for him to grasp the gravity of this moment. So what do we do? I have a Placia safe house, he answered, determination blossoming in his expression. We can get there and figure out our next steps. But we need to leave now before they realize we've split. I exchanged glances with Clara, and she nodded encouragingly. We're willing to trust you. But you can't hide anything from us going forward. We're all in this together. With Emily's hand firmly grasped in mine, I nodded as well, channeling every ounce of determination present within me. Let's go. As we moved out of that alley and into the unknown night, the darkness felt thicker than before, clawing at our heels like the very secrets which had spiraled our lives into chaos. My heart raced, with every silent prayer whispered against the night. I wished for the light amid the storm, safety for Emily, for Mark, for us all, and as we fled into the embrace of the darkest hour, I took solace in one undeniable truth. Sometimes love demands a fierce bravery, one that chooses to fight toward the light rather than surrendering to shadows. Together we would navigate this storm. Together we would break free, for in the heart of every chaos stood the promise of tomorrow waiting to emerge. As the final strains of doubt took flight, I held my daughter tightly and lit a fire within my heart. We would rewrite our story, a saga seeking redemption, and from the ashes of despair, we would surely rise, and maybe, just maybe, we would seek the light where it shone brightest together.